Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In this video, let's attempt to create a blockout of a superhero type character. And this video is actually inspired by somebody who I greatly respect. The name is George Zaky. You can look him up, and he does these incredible base meshes. As of recently, he also just started streaming on zBrush YouTube channel. And based on one of his videos that I saw, I would love to attempt to create something similar, just kind of following his process. So to get started, let's initialize a polysphere. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can go to your brushes, and if you just press I on your keyboard, you can see that you have a couple different IMM primitives, and there's 14 and 12. If you just click on one of them, for example, I'm just going to click on 14 and press M, I can see what my options are, right? So one of them being this polysphere. So we're going to be using this heavily, so you want to make sure you have that. And the other one, if I go into my IMM brushes again and go into 12, you can see that these are somewhat different. You have a few other options. Some of these are just halves, right, of the same thing. So let me go back to my other one, which is going to be this 14. And this is the default brush that you should have in your ZBrush as well. So to get started, let's do this. Instead of using this Dynamesh to begin, I would like to begin with a, let's see, a polysphere. So again, two different ways you could do it. You can grab an IMM brush and insert it. That would be one way of doing it. Or you can also go to initialize, and under initialize, you do have something called Q sphere. So that's exactly the same thing. If I just simply click on it, you can see that it's going to replace my other Dynamesh with this one, right? And I do have the resolution sliders. So for example, if I wanted to dial this up to maybe, let's do 10 by 10 by 10, for example. And now if I just say Q sphere, you can see that I have a much higher resolution. And then of course, if I wanted to change the polygroups, just do Control W. And that's going to change that. So this is pretty much the two approaches how you can easily get the Z-spheres. So I think that I am going to probably utilize both. I'll use this one because this one is a little higher res and this one is a little bit lower res. So again, we can make infinite number of these, but let me just start by just duplicating one, hiding one of them, and let's begin. So the first thing we should do is, let me jump out of polyframe, and let's just begin with the head of the character. So to sculpt the head of the character, just like George does in his videos, I'm gonna do the top of this character's head. So let me go into the side view. If you're new to ZBrush, by the way, hold on the Shift key and you can just snap sideways. You can also jump out of the perspective view. That's gonna give you this nice, clean orthographical view, which is not, angled in any way, which is great. And to begin, let's just simply grab our move. That's going to be pretty much 99% of what we're doing, just moving and inflating. So these two brushes, if you want to, you can drag them onto UI. If you like my UI and you want to follow my videos, below each video on my channel, there's a link to my UI that you can download for free. All right, so let's do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I definitely want to flatten the bottom of this sphere. How do I flatten something? I can go to Move, and I can grab the scale right here. And instead of just scaling it like this, let me undo that. I can hold down the Control key and I can drag up, and that's going to kind of flatten the bottom. And that's what I want to create the top part of the head. So this is great. And again, I'm on the side view, so keep an eye on that, right? Let's switch to Move. Now, if you switch to Move, make sure you press X, and you can see Active Symmetry has been activated. And think about this as sort of like the top skull part, right? So a couple things you want to maybe do. Maybe you want to do, just make your brush a little bit larger, but maybe we want to create bend here, right? Maybe just bring this down just a little bit, bring this up a little bit, and just start visualizing like a side view of a skull. Maybe we can play with this a little bit, maybe make this a little bit flatter. Now, if I go to the front view, I do want to maybe squeeze this in. And if I wanted to, I can even press some of these temples in, and this is going to be our forehead, right? So again, just visualize like the top of the head. So I'm going to bring this in. Maybe even I can push this in a little bit, right? Just a little adjustments here and there, okay? Very cool. Think of this right here as like the eyebrows, right? Or like the nose ridge. So we don't need to get into expression right away, but maybe what we could do is just create some kind of movement where we know there's going to be a little bit of an expression where the character is, you know, not mean or angry, but he is kind of intense, right? So there's going to be like the flow of the brows. All right, so this is what I have so far. I think this is great. Let's continue. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to continue using more spheres, polyspheres, to create the rest of this, right? So I can just unhide it because I already have one copied. Let me duplicate it again and hide my next one. Jump into this one, grab our move, and this time let's start building kind of the bottom part of his head. By the way, if you ever experience a situation where you move something and the other object or the other layer disappears, that just means your dynamic got turned on. A lot of times this happens to me by accident. In the solo, I can just simply click on this and that's going to fix that, right? If that ever happens to you. Okay, so to create the jaw, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, use my control and scale to kind of trim or slice or press in half of the sphere. So I have something like this. Now I'm going to take this and insert it right here where the front of the face is, right? All right, and at this point we just have to start sculpting, right? So I'm going to grab my move and let's just make sure that we maybe press this in, right? We'll do something like this. Maybe the jawline here, we want this to be kind of sharp. So by the way, if you want to start sculpting this, and currently this is, you know, it was made from a sphere, right? And by the way, maybe I should turn this on so you could see the topology. One of the things I could do, for example, to help me, you know, instead of just using the move brush to put it into place, for example, let's say I want to have kind of a jawline here, right? And let's say, you know, this is not going to work, right? I want to take, maybe I want to flatten the front like this, right? But now I want this sharp line right here for his jawline, right? Because I'm blocking stuff out. I don't want any lumpy, blobby stuff. So what I could do is I can press Control Shift, go into my quick picks. And if I go into my quick picks, I could use something called clip brushes. Now, clip brushes are really interesting because they will allow you to clip things and flatten them against each other. So if I say clip curve, for example, and let's say I'm gonna put it right here, right? What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take everything, all the geometry below the gradient line, and clip it or smush it or push it against the jawline. And by doing that, check it out. I didn't remove it. It wasn't removed. It was just smushed in there. So essentially giving me something like this. And that's a really clever way to quickly create sharp edges. Now, one thing you might say is that this right now has too much geometry and it's actually not useful, right? There's too many points to move around if I'm blocking stuff out. Well, for that, I can, of course, go to geometry. Let's go into zero measure, turn half on. We could say detect edges if we wanted to and just do half, right? And that's going to change the topology of our geometry and give us kind of a new flow, right? And maybe even this is too dense. I can do half again. And now I have something like this, and now this is super easy to control, right? There's so few points here that it's really easy to control. Now, if I want to flatten the top, same thing. I can just flip my line this way, and let's say I want to take all of these points here and just kind of flatten them against the top. And the reason I did that is because now I can come here, and let's say I want to, you know, maybe create something a little more like the eye socket or something like that, right? Maybe you know, this can come up here, right? This is going to be more like an eye. This I can start pushing up and essentially literally just blocking out where the eye would be, right? Maybe I want to take all of this and just push it up into his head, right? And by the way, if I'm doing this and eventually if I infuse both of these shapes together, one thing I might want to pay attention to is that some of these points should be, you know, somewhat close, right? So we don't have a lot of cleanup to do. So essentially closer to the edge, right? So there's just, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it's somewhat close, right? If I redynamesh these and infuse them together, I just have very little cleanup here. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going. Let's just create maybe something like this, right? So I have like a little eye going on here. And now I can control this a little better. Maybe I can take this and just push it back, right? The geo is just so low that it's just so much, there's so much control here. What I can do is that maybe I can take this here and just start creating something like this, right? Maybe I want to take the front of the face and just kind of straighten out, right? This is going to be like this nose here. Maybe this is going to be the mouth. And I can just, again, just start blocking all the stuff out. Just initially, let's keep the chin sort of sharp and stylized for our blockout. And if you want to change the topology, again, just ZRemesh it. But let's say I have something like this. You know, if I wanted more geometry, I can also easily use ZModeler, right? Because this is so low poly, I can go to ZModeler. And let's hover over an edge, for example, and just do, you know, we can do something like an insert edge loop, right? And I can just drop an edge loop right here. And now I have a little more to play with. Maybe I want to add one here, right? I don't really care about this being a clean final topology. It's more about getting to the shape of what we want the character to be. Maybe we want to press the cheeks in. All right, let's say I'm happy with my blockout for the jawline and I want to continue. Next, let's go ahead and maybe add the ears in. So again, we can keep using our block, right? We could do that. Or remember, we can always go into our IMM brushes and just go into this primitive 14 and just grab the actual polysphere, right? All right, and let's just insert an ear. I'll turn active symmetry off and just do one, right? So let's do something like this. And now I can grab my move, I can change my pivot, and let's flatten it, make it look more like an ear. And literally just, we don't want big ears, right? This is not a comical character, somewhat small, because this is gonna be like a hero character. I'm gonna push this in and decide, you know, where the ear needs to go and how it needs to be angled, right? Maybe I wanna actually turn it a little more like this. So I think that's pretty good. And I probably want it right here. If I wanted to, I can also grab my move. And of course, I can also sculpt it just a little bit before we flip it to the other side. Just give it a little more shape, right? Maybe just this one right here is going to be a little skinnier and something like that. Maybe I can even press this in. Again, just blocking stuff out, right? Essentially a bunch of placeholders for our shapes before we begin sculpting something more impressive. Let's say I like this ear. To flip it to the other side, I'm just going to mirror it and do mirror and weld. And now I have two. Even at this moment, maybe, you know, I can look at it symmetrically and say, I actually wouldn't mind if this was maybe just a little bit larger, just a little bit. Cool, I'm going to do Control and drag to get rid of my masking, and let's continue. What would be the next part that we can work on? I think the next thing is probably the neck. Let's just insert the neck. Let's go back into our IMM brush and grab this 14. By the way, if you're new to ZBrush, what if I wanted to use this all the time and I don't always want to go into the brushes? How do I drag one of these onto my UI, right? Maybe you're designing, maybe you're using some brushes more than others. It's really easy. All you need to do is just go to Preferences, go into Configuration, and then just say Enable Customize, right? So now I can go into my brushes, and if you go into the brushes, you don't want to drag this big one, right? You want to grab this small one right here. Now I can just press Control and Alt and just take this and drag it onto my UI. As you can see, I can easily press it. I can easily just drop it wherever I want, right? I can literally put it anywhere I want. Let's say I want to put it right here. That's where I'm kind of stashing all my most used brushes, right? So I'm going to put it here. And now if I wanted to, I can, of course, go back into Preferences, and I can save my UI, and I can also click Enable Customize to get rid of the editing mode for the UI, right? So now I have a shortcut. I don't need to always go to my brushes, press I, find the brush, select it, and then use it. I can just come here. So that's really useful, right? So in my case, I want a neck. Which one of these tools do you think would be a good neck? I can, of course, use the capsule. All right, so I'm gonna go, let me jump out of my perspective view. I'll go in the middle point right here, and just start dragging something out, holding on the shift key if I want to snap it 90 degrees perfectly straight, and just release it, right? Now I have this, and I think this is a perfect mesh to block out a neck. Let's go ahead and move it, maybe change the pivot, just rotate it, maybe make it a little bit thicker, and just kind of put it into place. Of course, I can also make it longer. And at this point, I can also start sculpting on it, right? Let me go back to my move, make sure my active symmetry is on, and I can just go ahead and maybe, you know, change this into something that makes a little more sense, right? Maybe I want to take these lower sections and just kind of make it a little bit wider. I can do that. And that's going to be essentially the block out for my neck. I don't really need anything more than this. Holding down the shift key, I can redistribute the polygons very quickly, right? Maybe just press this in a little more and just have something like that. All right, I'm very happy with my neck block out. Let's go ahead and continue. Now another thing I can do is I can turn on transparency mode on, and I can maybe use have a little bit better control because I can see where things are. I can grab the mesh a little bit better. So keep that in mind as well. That's really useful. Maybe you want to, you know, just have a little more control of the flow, right, of the geometry. Transparent button is very useful. Okay, so let's continue. The next thing we should block out is probably the body, right? So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and unhide this mesh that I have stashed. I'll duplicate it and keep hiding my next one in case I need more. So I'm going to grab my move and just literally move it down, right? Because this is going to be somewhat of a hero character. I want the body to be somewhat large and strong. So I'm going to make this really large, and let's just put it down here, and that's going to be kind of a starting point. By the way, if you move this off center and you're not sure if this is, you know, if it's going to be symmetrical or not anymore, don't panic, right? This is not a problem in ZBrush. If you move something off center, you can always go to geometry, and you can always jump into position. And in position, you have X, Y, and Z. Obviously, left and right is going to be the X position, so I can easily switch it to 0 and make sure that this is back in the center. I can also change my pivot, and now it's not a problem, right? So keep that in mind. So the first thing we should do, let's talk about the body, right? We definitely want to probably squeeze it a little bit this way, and let's just put it into a better position. So I'm thinking something like this. I'm going to grab my move, again, make sure my active symmetry is on, and the first thing we should do is maybe give him kind of large, strong shoulders. And if you, again, think like there's a little bit too much geometry here for me to use as a block out. Maybe I want to have a little more precision, a little more control. I don't want to move this many points, right? Well, again, I can go to geometry. I can grab a lower polysphere, and maybe I should have used that for the body, but because I didn't, I can always, this is what I'm showing you in ZBrush, there's just full control over every little thing, right? You can just go into half and just, you know, I'm going to leave my active symmetries on because this is symmetrical, and just Z-remesh it. Now it's just a little bit lower, and maybe it's easier to control, you know, it's up to you, right? So again, no rules, just whatever makes the most sense for you. Maybe one of the things I could do also come in the back, and you know, maybe I want to press this in, right? Just kind of start creating that indentation for the back, bring this up, and let's talk about the fact that maybe, you know, he's a strong bodybuilder type, right? So we want to give him this really strong neck. Definitely start moving it forward. Holding down the shift key, I can smush anything that I need to, but I want all of these muscles to start kind of being present, right? And maybe just make sure we keep some of that neck. So we have this volume here. We have this, the back is kind of being pressed in like this. Let's go in the front here, and let's just create the cage for his kind of a rib cage. So we're gonna move this up, and then we'll insert like an abdominal or a belly, right? So initially, something like this is gonna be pretty much perfect. Maybe if I wanted to flatten some of this, again, I can hold on the shift key very easily, just keep this nice and organized, no problem, right? Just create this nice rib cage right here. Very happy with that. Let's go ahead and talk about the shoulders. Maybe the shoulders could be, I don't know, maybe a little bit higher, right? Something like this is good. All right, so let's do something like this. Initially, I'm gonna keep this somewhat flat, and I'll show you in a minute why, but I do want to create kind of this nice topology flow for the rib cage, and I think that's really nice, right? Now another thing I can do is let me go into here, grab my Z spheres. Let's just make sure our active symmetry is on, and let's just do something like this. And I'm holding down the shift key. I can make sure that this is nice and straight, and I'll use this to create kind of the chest muscles, right? Let's go ahead and just maybe literally just move it into what we think is going to be a block out for our chest. Oh, this looks crazy. I can of course scale. Let's scale this in, move them a little bit closer, obviously turn it as well, right? And let's just kind of continue blocking this out. All right, before we do more, let me do this. I'm gonna press Control, grab my move. I do wanna jump out of symmetry, center my pivot, and let me change actually my pivot. One of the things that from the front, I do wanna make sure that I have some of that neck visible. I don't wanna do this, right? I wanna do something like this where that front neck is still visible and it's kind of connecting to the back. I think that's important for this character. So now I can still continue adjusting it, right? Maybe now I can just move this, of course, oops, make sure my symmetry is on. But I'm just gonna move this into kind of a better position here and make this work, right? So again, the neck is visible from the back. I see it in the front. I have this really strong body type, which is really nice, and let's just continue playing with this. A couple things. I want to maybe make sure that my back is a little better angled. I just create a little better flow here, right? I want this part in, but at the same time I want to make sure that I have this nice volume here, right, for the back, just so it feels nice and strong, and all of this is still kind of blocking stuff out, right? So we're not gonna get into too much detail. If we want to press this line in, I can do that. I can grab my move and just maybe, you know, bring these points in. Just start creating kind of like that center back line, right? I could do that. And maybe bring these points out a little more. Cool. I think this is feeling pretty good. Let's continue. One other thing that maybe I could do is, if this is going to be his chest and this is the rib cage, maybe the rib cage could just be, you know, a little bit higher, right? So maybe I don't have this huge space right there. So maybe I could do that. By the way, check this out. If I want to move this, and this is in the same layer as the other piece, right? It's moving all of them. But what if I just want to move the yellow poly group, but not this one? For that, I can use my Move Topology brush, and I can just kind of move this up higher without affecting the blue one, right? So keep that in mind. Move Topology is really powerful, right? Let's do this. I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, hold on the Shift key, and just kind of snap to the bottom. Let's jump into our primitives, grab the polysphere. Now before I grab it, I want to make sure that this is going to be centered. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the center, start dragging this, hold on the Shift key, and it's going to snap in the center. And now I know that this is perfectly aligned, right? That's going to be really important. Let's go to Move, go to this view, and now since we know this is perfectly centered, we can use our active symmetry to sculpt it or start kind of pulling it up, right? It's going to be his belly. So I'm going to flatten the front, maybe flatten the back a little more, and I can, for example, start pulling this down, right? I can do that. And let's go ahead and create something that makes sense. Maybe, you know, this is going to be his rib cage, so maybe I want to go kind of close to that line up here, right? And I'll just do the same thing all the way around, right? Let's do something like this. Very cool. This is going to be like his belly, right? So let's go ahead and align these lines. I don't need this strange topology flow, so I'm just going to take this and just move this up. Right, I want to keep this nice and flat for what I'm doing initially. Now since we flattened this, let's go ahead and take this, I'm going to leave this one alone. I'm going to take these lines and just start pulling them out. So this one is going to go in like this, and this one is going to go out. And so I'm creating like this strong abdominal shape, right? That's kind of extrudes out, and that's going to be really cool. Let's go ahead and do that all the way around. So something like this, right? So I have this line, and again, I saw this in George's video, and I think that's really amazing blockout strategy. So I'm kind of doing the same thing. Let me take these lines and just pull them out, and that's going to be great, right? Let's go ahead and stop here. All right, so this is looking good. Let me go to the back, and following this indentation here, I'm just going to make my brush a little bit smaller, and again, just push these in as well, just kind of maintaining that inner line, right? And of course, I can also pull all of these down, right? This is going to start going into his hips. Cool, this is fun. Let's do control and drag to get rid of the masking. Now I have something like this. Nice little blockout so far. Now both of these again are in the same layer, which means we can move them around together, right? If I grab my move brush, and if I want to at any point adjust any of this, I can do it together, right? So that's really important as well. If I want to do one at a time, I grab move topology, but if I want to do them together, I could do that easily because they are together, right? Because they're in the same layer. Sweet, let's continue. All right, how do we create our hips so we can insert our legs into it? Same way as we did the belly. Let's go ahead and go to the top view once again. Again, jump into my primitives, active symmetry is on, grab my polysphere, go in the center, start dragging it, hold on the shift key, snap to the middle, grab my move, and let me just start turning this into something that looks like hips or pelvis, right? I'm gonna move this up, just make it a little bit larger, and of course we can adjust this as well. Grab our move brush, we're in active symmetry, and we can just start making this a little bit wider so it looks more like a, you know, shape like this, right? Another thing we can do is to create the place where the legs are going to be inserted. Let's just take this and start moving this in, something like that, right? So now we have kind of the front crotch area, and then this is going to be where the legs are going to be inserted. Super simple blockout, right? Just kind of common sense. One other thing you might pay attention to is that you want to make sure that this is kind of a flat with the belly, right? Let's go ahead and maintain that. Go to the back. On the back view here, let's do something like this for his tush, and we can of course maybe press this in just a little bit, and again, just a simple blockout, but it's already starting to feel like it makes sense, right? I'm going to flatten this here, and I want to make sure that you have this nice flow going from the back, right, into the lower back, and then into his pelvis. Now, as I'm reviewing this, this is starting to feel a little bit long, and I would like to adjust this. So I'm going to do control and drag to get rid of any masking. Again, everything is still on the same layer. So I can grab my move brush, and literally just by even looking at this, it feels like this is a little bit too long, unless you're making some kind of a alien character, right? Maybe what I could do is just move all of this up and just continuously adjust it based on how it feels. So that's really important. Unless you have a really good reference, how the shape and the form feels is super important, right? So just looking from the side view, this feels very, I don't know, kind of boring, not dynamic, right? One thing I could do is, for example, just create a little bit of a movement here, right? Maybe his tush is going to go back, but this whole chest area, you can see the head is kind of tilted forward a little bit, right? But then you have this whole back is just kind of creating this almost like an S shape. So I think that's a little more interesting, right? A little more attitude. All right, I love it. This is fun. Let's go ahead and keep going. I think the next thing we can create are the shoulders. So again, I'm going to jump into my primitives. Let me grab my sphere, active symmetry is on, and let's just decide where the shoulder is going to be, right? Probably somewhere right here. We don't really need to hold the shift key. We just need to place it somewhere it makes sense. By the way, look, it's starting to get distorted. If I press Control key, it's going to snap to a perfect sphere, but that's going to be the size of my brush. So if that's important to you, make sure that you realize that the size of the brush is going to be super important. If you drag something and press Control, it's going to drop, it's going to match the size of your brush, right? So that gives you a lot of control, because then you can rotate it and not worry about something getting distorted. So let's do something like this, and now we just have to get this into a better position, right? I'm going to grab my Let's just grab our move, make it somewhat large, and just kind of start squeezing it into the shoulders, right? So, you know, let's just do something like this. Maybe take all of this, press it in. Right here, this doesn't make sense, so of course I need to put it into a much better position. And again, just do something like that for the shoulders. I want to make sure he has nice, strong shoulders. All right, for the end, let's just pull this down right here. Just create more of a kind of a, not a sharp look, but we have like these points kind of coming down, right? Like this, and then it's almost like it's kind of tapering up. So that's going to be our shoulder muscle. So that's going to be great, and just make sure we maintain this curve here. This right here kind of nicely goes into this mesh, and that's pretty much it, right? Again, if you want to smooth something, hold on the shift key. By the way, if you hold on the shift key, the intensity is super intense, so you can control that. Maybe holding down the shift key, I want to go to the smooth of 10 intensity, and that's going to be a lot easier for me to gradually smooth something instead of completely melt everything away, because we're working on such low res, right? So it's a nice way to gradually redistribute the topology. All right, so keep that in mind. And next, let's go back into our primitives. This time, let's grab the capsule, and now we just need to insert some of the biceps, right? So I'm just gonna come here and just start inserting it. Hold on the control again if I wanted to snap it. If not, you know, again, it's gonna get distorted. I don't like that, so I'm just gonna do something like this. By the way, that's me holding on the shift key. But I'll just do something like this and just kind of manually rotate it. That's fine. So I'll go, let me go to my move, and let's change our pivot, rotate it, align a little bit better. Obviously, the biceps need to be much stronger than this, right? Let me go to move and check it out. I think something like this should work. If I wanted to, I can take these biceps and just move them up a little bit. Take the tricep, move it up a little bit, right? Just create this nice shape. Maybe I want to take this bicep, kind of move it into the shoulder a little more, right? But at the same time, I do want to maintain that volume here. And by the way, again, if I wanted more topology here, remember zModeler is perfect for this. You just literally go into your edges, right? It says edge action, insert, and then single edge loop. And you can just insert edges as many times as you want, which will allow you to go into the move, and then of course distort it, creating, you know, maybe a little more of a muscle, like a little bicep or something, right? All right, let's continue. Next, I am going to insert a couple more of these for our forearms. So I'm gonna go back into my primitives, grab my capsule. Let me just come right here and just drag this out. I guess something like that is fine. Go to my move, and let me change my pivot, and let me go ahead and start rotating it a little bit better. I'm gonna go ahead and move this up. And if I wanted to, I can make it a little bit longer, but it's getting somewhat weird. So I'm gonna grab my move brush and just do it that way, right? This is gonna be an organic shape, so we could start playing around with our move brush, just kind of getting it into position. Maybe the forearm are gonna be just a little bit longer than the bicep, proportion-wise, but now I have something like this. One thing I'm gonna do is let me grab my inflate, and I am in add mode, so I'm gonna press the Alt key and just kind of taper these down a little bit, right? So you have a little bit of a flow from the top of the forearm towards the wrist. By the way, if you're doing this with me, make sure you save your subtool. So do save as and save your blockout, right? Nice. One of the things I want to do is I'm going to grab my move brush and make sure that let's start shaping these forearms to reflect, you know, somewhat a superhero, right? Let's make this portion here just a little bit wider, right? Let's go ahead and do that. And we can just start maybe angling this a little more. And, you know, one of the things we can do is it clearly looks like I need more edges. Again, zModeler, and I can just insert as many edges as I want. Let me just add a few, just so I have a little more control here, right? And maybe I can just create a little bit of a movement here, so it's not so stiff and straight. All right, we'll do something like that. To create the actual connection for the elbow, let's do this. Let's just take all of this here, and we can just move this up just a little bit, just so you know, you have this kind of a fall off right here. But to create the actual elbow, I think we should go, let's go back into our tool here, and we can use the capsule, or we could just keep using the polysphere, right? We can come here and let's just insert something like that. And this could be used as our elbow, right? I'm gonna grab my move and let's just simply, you know, kind of shove it into place. And essentially, you know, we wanna make sure it's somewhat thin, bring this up, bring this down, and just kind of start putting it into position so it kind of molds these two shapes together, kind of connects them, right? And I really want to maintain this circle here, or this round shape. And I can also take all of this and just move it up and move this down, and that is pretty much perfect. Again, Z modeler, if I need more edges, right? Not a big deal. And holding down the shift key, I can melt some of this and just move it around. And that is going to be a pretty good solid block out for the elbow. All right, let's review and see what we got. I'm gonna jump out of the polyframe. Let's do Control and drag to get rid of the masking and take a look and see how everything is feeling. This is what I have so far. I think I could also go to draw, and let me change my point of view here and take a look. I can press F, by the way, if I want to make sure that this is centered. And now we can just see if we like our blackout. I do. I feel like maybe I could just add a little more thickness. This right here feels just a little bit too thin to me. Maybe I can take this right here, just kind of add a little more volume, right? Just again, continuously check your shape and just see how it feels even at this super rough stage, right? And just make sure, you know, maybe the shoulders can come up a little bit, just so he feels nice and strong. All right, awesome. Next, I think we should probably go ahead and let's tackle the hands, right? So to create the hands, what I'm gonna do is, again, make sure you save your subtool if you're doing this with me, but let's just insert another mesh, right? I'm gonna go back into my primitives. I'll just keep using the same polysphere. Let's go ahead and use that. Come to the end here, and let's just decide where the hands need to be. Somewhere right here I think is great. Let's grab our move, and now we just need to sculpt them something into more of a square shape, right, instead of this. So let's go ahead and do that. Maybe something like this, just so we can insert the fingers into it, right? We have our, let's press this in and connect all of this. And that is going to be perfect. Let's flatten this area here, because that's where the fingers need to go, right? Essentially for, initially for our blackout. And let's take a look and see where the thumb needs to be. So essentially it's like a round box, right? That's what I just created. So something like that I think is great. If I wanted to insert a, let's see, if I wanted to insert the thumb, I could probably put it right here. So again, I'm just gonna jump back here, grab this. Let's do something like this, grab our move, and let's just start putting this shape on the side. It's almost like it's not flat on the side here or on the back. It's more like an angle, right? It's just kind of living on the angle, and it's going to be the placement for our thumb, right? We'll just create a thumb coming out right out of here, and I think that will work perfectly. And we can continuously adjust it. You can also grab a base mesh. By the way, if you don't want to deal with hands and you just want to insert a hand, you can go to my Discord, and under free resources, there's a free low poly hand that you could just insert it and skip this whole stage here. All right, so now you see what I have. I have like this round box, super low poly, and I have this round shape for the thumb. And the next thing I need to do is just add some, you know, a couple fingers, right? And for those, I think we should just use boxes. So I think that would be the best way to do it. So I'm going to do Control and drag. And now to insert a box, let's do this. I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, save my subtool. Let me insert a box, and I'll just use this for the fingers. I'm going to take it, put it right here, make it a little bit smaller. Now it doesn't really match our resolution, you know, low poly res with everything else. So let's just initialize it. Let's jump into initialize and just do a Q box, right? I'm just going to click on that. And once I do, it's going to jump to the center, which is okay. But now if I turn my polyframe, you can see how this is like a low poly box. It kind of matches everything else, I think. much better. And this is going to be a perfect way to create a finger, right? Let's just create one and then we'll just copy it a bunch of times. So I'm just going to decide on the thickness of the finger. Maybe something like this is going to be my first one, right? Maybe just make it a little smaller. And now let's make one finger. So I'm going to press Control and drag this out. All right, I'm going to actually, let me drag this down and rotate it just a little bit. So there's like a little bit of a bend, okay? And we can decide how many links we want. But I think I'm going to go with, let's do 3, right? I'll do Control, again, move this down, rotate it. And now I have like this bend of the finger, which is cool, right? If I do Control and drag, you can see what it looks like. I'm going to grab my move. Let's adjust our pivot. So I'm going to unlock it, put it right here. And of course, lock it back up. And now I can control this finger. I can also scale it, which is really nice. I can also change the pivot if I needed to, right? And now let's just start kind of inserting them where they need to be. So essentially, this is going to be really simple, right? I'm just gonna just literally do like, let's do one here. All right, let's position it right here. So our first finger is gonna be more open. So like this, and then the rest are gonna be closer and closer to the body. So what does that mean? Here's what I mean. If I press Control, I can drag another one and let me rotate it just a little more, right? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this one and just turn it more into the body. And let's do that with every link. Press Control, drag another one, and also take this here and just rotate it a little more. It's going to give us this nice look, and we can change the length of these in a minute. Press Control, drag another one. Don't worry about the hand yet, we can adjust it, right? But now this pinky could be a little bit smaller and also just tilt it in even more. Sweet, now I have this. Now I still need one for the thumb, so I'm going to do Control. Let me do the thumb one, maybe rotate it and put it into position, something, I don't know, something like that is pretty good. At this point, there's no rules. It's just about how do you want your hand to feel, and you just want to make sure that it kind of goes roughly where it needs to be, right? So something like that I think is pretty good. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my move topology, press Control and drag to get rid of the mask. And now a couple things. I want to make sure that the middle finger right here is going to be a little bit longer. So to do that, let me grab my Z modeler, hold on the Alt key, and let me just make the selection right here, go into polygon actions. Let's do extrude, single poly, and literally take this middle finger, just make it just a little bit longer, right? So the index finger and the middle finger is going to be longer. These two are going to be about the same size, so they're fine already. And then the pinky we already made a little bit smaller, so this is great too, right? If you wanted to make the pinky even smaller, you can select these using the Z modeler, and instead of extrude, if you want to move it, right, you can just go to move and literally just take this and just push it up. So we can adjust the, you know, the size of these, right? And I think that's pretty good. It already looks like a hand to me. I'm gonna grab my move, hold down the Alt key. Let's select this here. Let's jump out of the polyframe and let's adjust this just a little bit so it encompasses our hand a little bit better, right? So maybe I can move these down, just move them around a little bit and just kind of make sure that this pinky is actually indeed going into the hand. And of course, remember, holding down the Shift key, I can melt anything that I need, and to me this looks like a nice block out for the hand already, right? Let's go ahead and get these fingers on the other side. So I'm going to select them, and of course I can just do a mirror weld. Let's take a look and see how it's feeling. If I felt like these fingers are a little too square, right, I can always do Control D, and that's going to give me a little more shape, right? And then of course, if I turn this into a Dynamesh, that's going to also give me a nice preview of where the links need to be. So this is a really good way to kind of create a block out for the hands very easily and very quickly. Let's just continue. Make sure if you're doing this with me, once again, save your subtool. All right, just like we did with the hands, let's continue and create the legs, right? I'm gonna press Alt, select this shape here, go back into my primitives, grab my capsule. Let's go to the bottom here. Make sure our active symmetry is on. And let's just simply drag a couple capsules, right? I'm gonna do something like that. I'm gonna grab my move and of course rotate them into a better position. Let's just kind of insert them where they need to be, right? So something like this, and I'm gonna do it roughly because now I'm gonna switch to my move brush anyways, right? So I just kind of want to, you know, put it about where it needs to be. So that's good enough. I'm gonna go to my move brush, and now I can really make sure that this feels good, which means I can take this top part, right? And let me just kind of shove it inside these hips. I'm gonna literally just move it up. And another thing I could do is if I needed to move this down and make it a little more, obviously this doesn't look like a good thigh, right? It looks too short proportionally for this character. So it's important that maybe you zoom out, jump out of perspective view and just kind of feel, how does this feel? If you just look at the proportions, it feels like this right here needs to be more, you know, like here, right? So that's important, right? And we want to zoom out and we want to see and feel the shape. So we'll do something like that. That's a little bit better right here, right? Maybe it's a little bit out. If I want to create any angle or a bend here at all, you can see, let me actually turn off the color. I just want to see the lines. I don't have enough topology to create any bend here, right? So to do that, again, Z modeler, hover over an edge. Let's go into insert edge loops, right? And if you wanted to, you can even do multiple edge loops and just simply click and drag. That's a fast way to add topology, right? Very quickly. So now the nice thing about adding extra topology is that now I can actually control this a lot better, right? Maybe I can create a little bit of a movement here. So it just feels better, right? So something like that is pretty cool. And maybe I can take this, move this closer. All right, let's go in the side view. Let's make sure we maintain some of that volume, right? We want these legs to be strong, so we want them to come out a little more here. Let's pull them back here, right? And everything needs to feel pretty good from every angle. If I wanted to, I can also take the knee part and just kind of start pushing it in a little more. So this right here is going to be nice and muscular, but this is where it's going to go towards the knee, right? So I need this to be a little bit skinnier. This is going to be the back of the knee, so I can just push this in and you know, just kind of prepare for the next step, right? So I could do more in a minute, but this right here is a good start. Holding down the shift key, I can melt this a little more, and again, just blocking it out and then going back and touching things up, right? But just make sure it kind of feels pretty decent proportionally so far. In order for us to do more, I feel like we obviously need you know, the bottom of the leg. And to do this, we can of course insert more, or we can just grab these and use them. Let's do that instead, just something different. So while this is unmasked, I'm gonna go to split and just do split unmasked points. And that's gonna give me these thighs by themselves, right? Which also means I can duplicate them, grab my move, let me change my pivot, and I can just move them down, right? And of course I can put them into a better position, maybe turn them a little more, and kind of start creating something that makes sense as far as the bottom of the legs go, right? Now this right here doesn't look good at all, but now we can play around with this. So let me jump between the two shapes. I think it's going to be useful if we take this and merge this down into one layer. And the reason, I'm going to say always okay. The reason I'm doing that is because I have full control. If I turn my fill on and do auto group, so you could see I have full control over the legs, right? Because we can use the move topology or we can use the move with the poly groups. So many different ways to control this, even if it's on one layer. So let me go ahead and turn the fill off. I'll just use move topology, right? All right, so let's start adjusting it. This right here obviously needs to be a lot more stronger, right? Maybe I want to move this forward a little more. Grab these here, just start doing something like this where you have more of a curve here, right? Maybe I can take these and pull them back a little. All right. On the back, I want to create some of those calves, so I'm going to do that. Start building some of that calf muscle. I'm going to bring the ankles down and just do something like this. All right, so I think that feels pretty good. I'm definitely having a hard time visualizing this without the knees. I need the knees, so let me grab my polysphere and just insert something like this. And let's go ahead, just like we did with the elbows, right? We can just take this and move it into, you know, a better position, right? Just literally put it where the knees need to be. So something like that. Maybe make this a little bit longer and do something along these lines. All right, now I can visualize a little bit better what's happening here and how the connection is working. And it's also going to help us with deciding the proportions of the leg, right? I think I like everything. I'm going to go ahead and do control and drag. Maybe just make this a little bit stronger, right? You have this nice curve right here. It's going to go into the knee, and then it's going to go into the calf, and right here in the bottom, right? You don't really, usually if it's a stylized character, you don't have a calf going all the way to the foot. You have a calf, and then it's going to go in something like this. It's going to go more of a skinny part where the leg turns into a foot, right? So you have like this shape here. Some of this is just preference, right? Just stylistic preference, but something like that should work as far as the blockout goes. All right, and let's continue. We also, before we do more, let's get the foot in. So same thing, go into our polysphere. Let's just insert something like this. Just give us something to play with, right? It doesn't need to be even in the right place, but essentially this will work. And let's just begin, you know, sculpting it, right? So let's talk about this. This is going to be the heel, right? This is going to be the foot. The foot from the side view probably needs to be a little more pointy here, right? And then you have like a little ramp and do something like this. All right, from the front view, let me go ahead and go to the bottom view, and let's just make this a little wider. So we want to keep this a little bit wider. We want to have this heel, and then we want to have this indentation here for the foot. We want this to be somewhat sharp initially, right? Just for our kind of a stylized foot design here. All right, and remember I can do Control and Shift and go into my quick pick, right? I can go into my quick pick, grab something like the clip rectangular, and I can literally just clip the bottom of these. And remember, clipping means it's not going to remove it, it's going to kind of press it in. So if I do something like this, you see what it did? It just clipped all of that geo and pushed it in and made the foot a little more flat, right? And that's maybe a good strategy for what I'm doing here, just kind of a low res block out, right? Maybe I can start moving this around. All right, so next it's going to be about adding more and more detail to our blockout, but at this stage, personally, I would like to make many different tweaks and adjustments. What I would love to do is just take all of this and literally just merge it down into one, right? And this is good because now I can control the polyframe really nicely. I could see everything. I can even turn my fill on so I could see what's going on, what's what, right? I'm going to turn this off for a minute. At this point, let me adjust everything at once, right? Because now everything is on one layer. I can make some movements. For example, let me take his hip, maybe move this forward a little more. Let's just go ahead and take the back, adjust this a little more. We can decide if we like the arms, how they're sitting, how they're feeling. Maybe I can move these in, right? Move the legs out a little more. And this is a great place for all of these little tweaks. Alright, you guys, I think I'm going to stop here. So again, those tweaks are going to be important and they are pretty much infinite, right? You just go around, but you get the idea. You now know how to block it out. If something looks weird, you can of course Z-remesh it and easily change the topology, but this is going to be a really good way to quickly block out a form, general shape, which then you can of course take further and turn it into something super impressive by subdividing it or dynameshing it and adding more and more detail. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully you learned something from me. If you want to see a little more, even more detailed approach to this, I encourage you to look at George Zaky on zBrush. He is absolutely insanely awesome, and this is my interpretation of his workflow, right? All right, thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys in our next video. Please like and subscribe if this was helpful. I would love to see you also jump into my Discord channel, right? That's where you can ask questions, show your work, and meet other artists. And of course, I would love for you guys to join my actual channel and support me. That allows me to continue providing more free content for you, right? So if you join the membership section, that supports me directly. Thank you so much and have a great day.